Hello everyone, welcome to the first lecture of IST 868, Introduction to Visual Analytics. In this lecture, I'm going to introduce some basic ideas of visual analytics, including motivations and methods, as well as the challenges we're facing, and I'm going to use the later part of the lecture to talk about the planned themes as well as activities. I will use the rest of this lecture to give you an overview of this course. I will start with some discussions on the philosophy of visual analytics and talk about the motivation of this whole field. First, visual analytics is defined as a general approach to deal with information overload. In order to appreciate the science of visual analytics, we have to really understand why this field was developed. Information overload defined as the fact that our ability to collect data is far more effective and far more powerful than our ability to analyze and understand data. Take the intelligence community as an example. As we know that the U.S. government have invested so much resource and energy to the homeland security and intelligence collection, such that we have probably one of the world's most powerful mechanism for intelligence gathering. However, as the Washington Post reported, that despite the huge investment, our ability to respond to national or international threat to our security has not been approved as we expected. So in the next slides, I'm going to show you an introduction video that presents a case of the intelligence community. Well, information overload is really not a new problem. As we know that a famous scientist, Vannevar Bush, actually defined this problem back in the early 1940s and 1950s. And he was even proposing a solution to address that using a machine called Memorex. Due to his contribution to define this information overload problem, as well as his proposed solution, Vannevar Bush was considered as the father of the information revolution generated by the modern internet and computers. The current stage of understanding of information overload has been more fully addressed in the field of information science. So next, I would like to explain the nature of intelligence, the nature of information problem, information overload problem in the context of information science. In information science, we believe that there's a fundamental difference between three things: data, information, and knowledge. Data are the raw fact we collect, we sense, and we store. On the other side, the data are not information until they answer certain questions. And those questions will generate certain meaning in a task environment and help us to more fully understand what's going on, the structures and processes. And this kind of process will likely to be accumulated so that a human will be able to use more systematic knowledge for decision making. So in this pyramid model, we recognize that there's a progression of intelligence from data to information to knowledge and towards wisdom. The common wisdom about information overload problem, many people understand as just the size problem. Too much data collected. However, there's another aspect that's more serious than the size. Here we're going to talk about quality issues, the usage problem. So the data not only are in huge size, but also they are not usable. information overload studies, there has been three aspects of usage and quality issues being discussed. One question is about the relevance. The data needs to be relevant to the task in order to be usable. A second is the data must be properly processed in terms of summary, synthesis, transformation, and assembly so that it can be directly used for a certain purpose. And the third aspect is the way the information are presented has been a huge problem because human requires a certain contextual knowledge in order to pick up the meaning of the data in their particular task. So in that sense, all the three conditions has been a bottleneck to the usage of information. We know that information, in order to be used, it has to address three critical questions. One, we have to define what we mean by relevance. In order to answer that question, we have to first answer the question of what is the task structure of human work. And the appropriate procedure for doing those tasks also must be defined, and the decision they need to make also determine the meaning of the data.